Hello and welcome to another Tide Guy video. I'm sorry I went on a little hiatus of 10 days where I hadn't done videos. I was in the process of moving, getting my Bama setup all set up. So I will be doing videos every day once again, and I will also be doing call-in shows this week. So today's video, I wanted to address coaches fired and coaches on the hot seat. We already know that after week 2, Scott Frost was fired, and then Saturday night, Arizona State did not perform very well, and the athletic director and the president of Arizona State had a little meeting with Herm Edwards in the end zone after the game and informed him that he was fired. So that's 2 major coaches in, the first 3 weeks of football have been fired. And I truly believe it's only the beginning. I do believe now that high school kids can sign with their colleges in the middle of December, that it does put burden on coaches that if they don't win right away, that they will be fired during the season, so that way they can get new coaches in place and have them ready for the signing period to be able to recruit. I know before last year that the signing period, that was always the middle of February. So it allowed the coaches to coach through the year, and if they did have to replace them, then they could, do that the last game in November, and that would still give a coach most of December and January, for recruits. But unfortunately, it's kind of hard to get rid of a coach at the end of November and get a coach to replace him within the 2 weeks it would take, for the signing period. So there's some other coaches on hot seat. The very first one everybody's probably familiar with, Brian Harsin from Auburn. In 2 years, he's 8-8. They are not taking that loss that they had Saturday against Penn State. Penn State came in, and it kind of showed why Auburn does not have Big Ten teams come down to their stadium very often. It really wasn't a good look. So he is actually on the hot seat after last year and barely kept his job, and now with the way he's starting this year, it doesn't look like he's going to last that many more games. Another coach that we're hearing rumors about, Colorado coach Karl Dorrell. He is 8-13. He just starting his 3rd season. Colorado, I believe, is probably by far the worst team in the Power 5. I can understand there's a little hotness under his seat. You got Jeff Collins and Georgia Tech. He's 10-27. He's just starting his 4th season. And a name that's been thrown around the last week, and especially after Saturday's game, is Shane Beamer down in South Carolina. In 2 years, he's also 8-8. Now, my question is for you guys. I remember back in the 70s and 80s, when a team got rid of a coach, a new coach would come in, and it was fairly custom that the new coach knew that he was going to get 4 to 5 years. You're going to get 4 to 5 years to build a coaching staff and to build a team. I know that today with the transfer portal and this and that it's a little easier to build a team, but stop and think about it like this. You're going to have warranted expectations is how I'll put it. I do understand that some of the blue bloods, they want to win and they want to constantly win, and they figure that, you can go to their program, and with the right coach, in 2 years, they can turn it around, which to me still kind of seems unrealistic. You've got teams like LSU and Auburn. They get a coach to win a national championship, and then 2 years later, they fire them because of, how they've been performing within the 2 years after a national championship. I think expectations are unrealistic before Saban, and I blame Saban for this a little bit, because Saban does have the tide rolling, and we are in the playoffs almost every year. We're in the championship game almost every year, and we've won 6 championships now since 2009. So I think that's telling these other teams, hey, if Alabama can do it, we can do it. And if you stop and think about it, throughout history, no coach has ever done this. I mean, there's been great coaches. You look at Joe Pa, you look at Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden is a perfect example. His Florida State Seminoles were winning, 10 games a year just consistently, but they wasn't winning championships consistently. I mean, they did win championships, but it wasn't, every year they were playing for a title or, winning every other year. Nebraska, they used to roll with Tom Osborne. and they were a good team. And they, kind of like Florida State, they had great records, so you kind of saw them in there till the end. But Osborne didn't win every other year or every third year. Now, those two coaches didn't have down years really either, but it's just unrealistic to think that there's going to be a coach like Saban out there that you can just hire and boom, you're in the title game every year. You're going to win every year. I mean, let's look at Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney, by far is the second best coach. Look what he did to Clemson. He's had them in 4 national championship games. They've won 2 national champions. And he's been in more championship games than that, but even he had a down year last year. And to consistently be in playoff and be in the title hunt, that's really hard to do. And so I do think you have teams out there, Georgia Tech, 3 years, now you're really on the hot seat. Shane Beamer, it's year 2. There's no way he should be on the hot seat. Yeah, they're not playing, South Carolina is not playing that great right now, but it's year 2. Brian Harsin, it's year 2 down in Auburn. And I know everybody's going to say, well, you're a Bama fan, and yeah, I would truly love to see him sign a lifelong contract, because if he's going to coach this bad, I'd rather see him in Auburn than anywhere else. But I truly believe that football needs to get back to how it used to be, where, if you're going to hire a coach, let him coach a full 3 years. And unless there's something, that he's done to warrant being fired, an investigation or something like this. But Notre Dame is a perfect example. There's a lot of people out there who's now saying Freeman, he barely beat Cal. He's 1-3 in his 4 games that he's coached. And these aren't his recruits. These aren't his players. Give him a chance to get a full recruiting cycle and let him get his players, and then tell me how he does. Look at Nick Saban. You guys will say that he's the greatest coach of all time. In his first year at Alabama, we lost to a school called Louisiana Monroe. If your team lost to Louisiana Monroe, you're going to be down. And a lot of these coaches on the list that I named you, if they would lose to Louisiana Monroe this year, that would really help put the nail in their coffin. But you know what? That was Saban's first year. We give him slack. Look what happened. So you got to let a coach. The other thing I think this does is, if Auburn does fire Harsin, who goes there? Are you going to go somewhere where, Chizik did really good there, but then he got fired. Malzahn had some good wins. He got fired. So now you bring in a guy, you gave him 2 years and you're going to fire him. What are you telling the next coach? You come in, you better wear in year 1, better be highly competitive at least year 1. And year 2, you better be going perfect. Because if not, we're going to fire you, because we don't have patience. And I think the problem is, there are a lot of great coaches out there, but you still have to remember, as of this year, there are still only 4 playoff teams. Think about that. And 2024 is the earliest we're going to go to a 12-team expanded playoff. So even in 2024, you're going to have 12 teams in a playoff every year. And there's over 130 teams. So you think how good you have to be one of those 12 teams. So I do think, let's give these coaches a little more time. Let them get their recruits in. Let's see how they do. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments what your take is. Let me know. How long do you think a coach should get? And I know that a coach will get a lot less time at a USC, at a Notre Dame, at a Nebraska, Alabama, Ohio State, the Blue Bloods. I know their expectations are high. You're looking at Durrell. They want to get rid of him after 2 seasons. And yeah, that's probably the worst team going, but is that fair? So you tell me what you think the right number of years a coach should get for a chance to prove himself. And I look forward to those answers. Now, also, if you would please, on the way out, if you'd hit the like button